Hi there, guys. Vinney Chopra back again with Apartment Syndication Made Easy. As you know, this is the sequel podcast to that one, my motivational show, which I do on Thursdays and Fridays, live show now. I hope you're able to catch me on the Positivity Brings Profitability Abundance Mindset on Thursday morning with Walter Amarillo. We did the show this morning. I hope you caught it, and it will be in the podcast also, new versions. And then, of course, tomorrow, Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific. I live near San Francisco, as you know. So I do two shows, live shows, which are in 14 to 16 channels now. They go live. And that is the one on Thursday at 9 a.m. and Friday at 9 a.m. So please, if you like, comment, give us 5-star reviews. And thank you so much. Again, today I've got a great guest, Mikkel. Mikkel Thorup is here in the house. Actually, he's not in USA. Wow. That's fantastic. Most of my guests are in Canada or USA. I'm so glad to have you, Mikkel. Yeah.
Pleasure's all mine. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation, Vinney. Should be a lot of fun.
It's going to be fabulous, fabulous. As a matter of fact, I want to tell everybody about Mikkel. He's the founder and CEO of Expat Money. And Mikkel Thorup is the world's most sought after expat consultant. If you're thinking about moving for retirement and really, living a great lifestyle outside USA, this is the show for you. He focuses on helping high net worth private clients legally mitigate tax liabilities, obtain a second residency or citizenship if you wanted to, and assemble portfolio of foreign investments, including international real estate, timber, plantations, agricultural land, and you name it, all kind of hard money assets. And the exciting part, I was just looking through, he's just a tremendous, source who is able to, he left actually from Canada at 12 years of age. How much do we learn in the school? But then he left school all together at 15. Is that right, Mikkel? I'll let you kind of take over and tell our audience, a little bit background about you. And you have traveled the world. I just read 400 times, in 100 countries. So it's very exciting to talk to you. Yes.
Well, Vinney, thank you so much for the warm welcome. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, to kind of give you guys a quick breakdown of my story, and I'll try to make it as concise as possible.
Sure.
But I was born in Southwestern Ontario. I'm Canadian born and raised, but when I was a child, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. So what happened was my teacher pulled me out of class and they sat me down in a room. And I think the principal and the vice principal was there. And they said, listen, Mikkel, something doesn't work quite right in your brain. And what we want to do is send you to a special school. So that's what they did, Vinney. Every day for 3 years, I got on a little white bus and I took a little white bus across town and I went to this quote unquote special school. Now, the only problem was it actually was not a special school. It was a regular school with a special class. So you can probably imagine what happened. I got picked on, I got bullied. There was tons of fights and things like this. Now, this is no woe is me. I'm a victim. Poor Mikkel, poor Mikkel. Certainly not. I mean, I got hit and I hit back. And I hit back twice as hard. So I would never claim otherwise. But after 3 years, I got a chance to go back to my neighborhood school. And I thought, my friends will have missed me and they're going to be so excited to see me. And it's just going to be amazing. And once again, you can probably imagine what happened. Everybody started gossiping and whispering. And, I remember Mikkel, he went to some retard school. Oh, thanks, no. Guys. Very politically correct. Kids are very sensitive. You know how children can be. But it ended up leaving a very bad taste in my mouth for public education. Sure. So I stopped going. And when I stopped going, I started failing. And then they'd put me into summer school and then I would fail that. And somehow they'd push me through. But long story short, I stopped going to school when I was 12 years old. And I officially dropped out at 15. And after I dropped out, I started traveling about a year or two after that. And I started exploring the world. And when I got out there and I started meeting all these incredible people who were living their life totally different than whatever I had seen in Southwestern Ontario. And no one knew, my background. And side note, my quote unquote learning disability is dyslexia. It's really not a big deal whatsoever. But back in the 80s, somehow people thought that it was. But fast forward, and I have been traveling for 23 years straight now. As you mentioned, I've been around the globe over 400 times. I've been to 110 countries, about 110 countries right now,
And there are total
lived in 9 of them.
176 or something, right?
Exactly.
Almost...
So I'm on my way. I'm well on my way to seeing every country in the world, and it is definitely a goal of mine. But while I was traveling and exploring the world, I really learned many secrets about living overseas and the tax strategies and how to legally reduce my taxes and how to use real estate and different things like this to get residencies and to be legal in the country. And I studied diligently and was very fortunate for many years to apprentice under some really fantastic lawyers. And I've been building this up ever since. And since the last 7 years, I've been helping other people do it and moving offshore. So as you mentioned, I work with high net worth individuals. A lot of my clients are real estate investors, professionals, doctors and lawyers, accountants and things like this, and obviously business owners and entrepreneurs.
I love it.
And we're just structuring their lives overseas, and it's a lot of fun. So it's really
fabulous.
Great.
No, this is very exciting for me. Because one of my good friend, Michael, I mentioned it. I won't say the last name. He moved to Costa Rica, for example. Now, so that was something very special. He wanted to have that lifestyle, and a lot of people I have heard Belize, right? Lots of people from USA have gone there. Could you maybe for our audience tell what's number 1, 2, 3 things they need to really prepare themselves for, and how the process started, I guess, and then the tax ramifications? We'll go into that too. Yeah.
Sure. So if the majority of your audience are Americans, well, yes, we kind of have 2 systems that work out there in the world. So you have the US system, and then you have like everybody else in the world. For most countries in the world, if you become a non-resident of that country, then you usually don't have any tax obligations to that country. Now, the US follows taxation based on their citizenship and their residency. So there's only 2 countries in the world that do this. The other one is Eritrea, which is a small African nation, which is known for blatant human rights violations. And then we have the US. So we'll kind of leave it there on how the US tax system works, because obviously it makes sense. If someone is going to pay taxes, then that's to go towards the services and things like this inside the country. But if you leave the country, if you're gone and you're not planning on going back, you're living in Costa Rica like your friend, or Belize like you mentioned, or maybe in Panama where I am, does it make a lot of sense that you're going to be paying so much taxes, 30, 40, 50% of your income back to the government? You don't even live in the country anymore. Now, the IRS does have a couple of plans to legally reduce your taxation. And I work through these plans. I have full-time lawyers that work for me, and I have accountants that I partner with and work with in all these things.
Hi, you are listening to Syndication Made Easy podcast. We will be right back after this short break.
Hi, thank you so much. This is Vinney Chopra, and thank you for subscribing to my podcast and YouTube channel and Facebook pages and all the great things, and LinkedIn. Connect with me. I come live to you every Friday at 9 Pacific with Vinney and Bo Show. Please also look at that. And also the podcast, which is my Apartment Syndication Made Easy. The book I wrote a couple of years back became international top seller on Amazon International now. And then we like to bring great guests for you every week or twice a week sometime to give you a lot of great knowledge. So please subscribe. You give us 5-star reviews on the iTunes. The better the guests we can, bring, and our ranking will go higher also. Thanks again for following us and really getting the most out of it. Please comment, like, share, because we would love to bring better and better material for you.
So it's really understanding, I guess, to go back to your original point, one of the first things to understand is what is your tax situation itself? What are you paying right now? And what are your tax obligations of the country that you're going to be moving into? Now, down here in Central America, there's many countries that follow what's called a territorial tax system. So they're not going to tax you on any money that's made outside of the country. It's all deemed foreign sourced income. So if you have investments overseas, real estate income, if you have capital gains, if you have cryptocurrency or you have an online business, you're a coach or consultant or Amazon FBA or anything that is made outside of these countries, well, then that country doesn't tax you on it. So that kind of takes care of that side. And then we work with the programs, as I mentioned before, for the IRS. So that's kind of a very, very, very high level, quick breakdown of the taxes. Now, obviously, if you want to go to another country, you can enter the country as a tourist. You can go there and take a look around. You can spend 30 days, 60 days, maybe even 90 days in the country and enjoy the beach and things like this. But if you want to live there past that amount, then you need to have a legal residency. So the residencies that I work in are called permanent residencies. Yeah. There's many different types. There's student visas and work permits and many things. But I work in permanent residency. This is the legal right to live and work in that country. Now, eventually, those can lead to citizenship, which means you become a national of that country and you get a passport and you can travel on that passport and you can say, I am Brazilian or I am Colombian or I am Mexican or whatever it might be. So understanding the immigration process for these different countries is really important. As we talked about before, there's 193 countries in the world. The majority of the world is free. I mean, there's, people seem to think it's only Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and North America that are free countries. But actually, many countries in the world are free countries. And there's fantastic places to go out there and spend time and live in things like this. Okay. So it's important to understand the different countries, the programs, and then the tax obligations for all of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. 100%. 100%. The key thing is, I'm so glad you're sharing all that because a lot of people want to go as tourists, but they want to maybe spend 4 months or 6 months. So is it like over 6 months over there, or is it, what kind of regulations are there to call it residency? Like, for example, some of my friends have moved to San Juan, Puerto Rico, for example, because the federal tax is only 4%. And state tax, like I live in California, it's 13% for me. I have to pay almost 52% of my income in taxes, which I don't do it because of real estate. I have so much real estate and the cost segregation and the negatives, amortizations and all that stuff, right? But you're right. There are lots and lots of people who want to move to other countries for better life and tax, reducing taxes and all. So what would you say to somebody? So is it a lot of legal jargon they have to go through? Maybe throw some light on that. Yeah.
It can be, it can be complicated. There can be a lot of paperwork. That's why working with someone who really knows and understands these things are really important. I mean, even sometimes people think that they're going to be able to do it themselves. Actually, with immigration, you usually need to work with an immigration lawyer, local representation of the country that you were going to. So the program that you mentioned a minute ago with Puerto Rico is Act 60, and it does help for a lot of people. The problem is that we're not really sure the future of the program. It was Act 20 and Act 2022, and now, it's been rolled into one and there's been changes. There's also ongoing fees with that. That'll still cost you $15,000, $20,000 in donations and fees to the government. I work in this program, but it's not my favorite. I would rather go through some of the other programs and get the legal right to live in a new country completely. So some of the regulations, let's use Panama as an example because I'm here, okay? So we can do a real estate investment here in Panama. It's a US dollar economy. It's not overly leveraged like Canada, where I'm from, or in the States. There's tons and tons of leverage there. So it gives it a very good floor here. So it's very stable economy. It's politically safe. We've got the Panama Canal. It's the largest banking sector in Latin America. Amazing organic fruits and vegetables and fish, and it's a gorgeous place to live, So you can make a real estate investment here. They have a program called the Friendly Nations Visa, is a $200,000 real estate investment. The other one is the Qualified Investor Visa. It's $300,000. The first one takes you to a temporary residency and then permanent residency. The second one goes straight to permanent residency. After 5 years of holding it, then you can apply for citizenship. You get another passport in hand. You can travel on that passport. You can go to many countries in the world. I think it's 151 countries visa-free access. So very, very strong passport.
Sure.
Now, you are going to need to show that you don't have a criminal record, that you've not been in trouble with the law. You're going to have to show proof of income, so a previous tax return or something like this. But Panama is one of those countries that has no taxation here that we were talking about before, as long as the money is foreign sourced. So this is a much better type of program for me to get a residency like this. And the best thing, Vinney, is just to keep the residency active, you only need to visit the country one day every 2 years. That's it. If you can do that, then your residency is active. You can have it for the rest of your life. And it's a great place that you can spend additional time. So we have amazing beaches here. We've got a fantastic city. If you want to get away from the snow, like I mentioned, I'm from Southwestern Ontario. We have 3 feet of snow, 4 feet of snow, in the middle of winter. I don't want anything to do with that. So I'd rather be down here in Panama. So you can come down for half the year, have much better weather, much better life, and possibly a lot of tax savings on that as well. And then when you add in things like world-class healthcare, you can have domestic help here, like I have 2 young children at home. My wife is a stay-at-home mother. My mother lives with us. We still have domestic help. We have 2 full-time nannies who work for us, and I have a cleaning lady as well. So it's very easy to do here in Latin America and have a really high standard of living without having to pay like an arm and a leg for these types of things. And although there's not taxation, you're still driving the economy by spending and by hiring these types of people. So it is very, very good.
Are you saying then maybe it's a VAT, like the value add tax, like in Europe, that you have to pay when you use goods and services, or sales tax, but no income tax whatsoever, like zero? Is it?
So the way it works is we do have a VAT here. It's 7%. So that's a tax based on
tax of 9.5%. So
exactly, 7% is very low for a VAT. But usually, what happens is a country will either have very high income tax and very low sales tax, or very high sales tax and very low income tax. So you can look at some of the countries in Europe will have an income tax of say 9% or 12.5%. Hungary comes to mind, but then their VAT is like 22% or 25% or something like that. Now, Panama, because it's a territorial tax system, it's all the income that is made outside of the country, you're not paying tax on it. Now, if you're making money inside the country, you cut hair for a living, or you work at a restaurant or something like that. You go to a shop and you're selling widgets. You're going to pay tax on that, okay? That's deemed locally sourced income. But you can live in Panama, run an online business, trade stocks or manage your investment portfolio of real estate. That's all foreign sourced income. So there's no taxation here. So that really fits hand in glove with a lot of the programs that are available in Canada and the US. And dealing with the taxation from their side. Does that make sense?
Love it. Love it. No, this is very exciting. Very exciting. I think the audience also, I hope you will look into Panama. I love it. The other thing is, how expensive are the homes? If you could kind of throw some light on real estate. And then also I saw, there are plantations and also investments. If somebody will live there and they want to invest there also, what kind of returns can they expect? If you could touch on those two. Yeah.
Sure. So that's a very good question. A lot of the real estate here in Panama City, a lot of the Latinos in neighboring countries, you can think Venezuela, Colombia, Bolivia, these types of countries, the wealthy people, they want to get their money out of these countries because there's a lot of problems economically there. So the first stop where they move all of their money is to Panama. And what they know and understand is real estate. So that is the number one thing. So we have tons of apartments here. So you have to be really careful when you're buying real estate. You don't want to just buy anything because the liquidity on it could be very difficult to resell in the future. Now, the real estate that I work with here, what we focus on is renting out to expats, so other foreigners like myself, as well as the multinational companies. So because we have the Panama Canal here and it brings in, something like $10 billion a year to the country and revenue, a lot of the big multinational companies will have their head offices for Latin America in Panama City. So what we try to do is get really high quality real estate and we rent it out to the company themselves. So you can think like Procter and Gamble or the big car companies or these types of organizations. And they send down their executives or some of the management level people from the States or Canada or the Europe down to Panama for a 6-month, 12-month, 18-month contract. And then afterwards they head back. So you always know that the real estate, the rental income for the real estate is going to be paid on time. It's going to be well maintained. And we do a lot of the management for these types of things. So usually, although the price point for the visa for the immigration is 200,000, I usually suggest if we're looking at a small apartment to probably be looking at about 230,000.
I see.
And that might be like a bachelor or a one bedroom, but in a place which is really fantastic amenities there. Like, I mean, pool and gym and tennis court and the golf where you hit the golf ball to practice your drive inside the these electronic ones. And they have movie theaters there and pool halls and they've got restaurants and they got so many things. So people sometimes say to me like, oh, it's very expensive for price per square meter or price per square foot. But actually, it doesn't really matter because the multinational companies are paying and they have an allowance.
Sure.
That's what we should be looking at instead, because Panama weather is so amazing. People are, they don't want to be inside all day. They want to go outside or they want to go out to nice dinners and things like this. So usually we can, I'm not giving financial advice here.
No, not at all. Again,
not at all, but
I'm so glad we are saying that we are not attorneys. We are not CPAs or consultants, financial consultants. Please do your own. Yeah. We're just kind of sharing ideas. Yeah.
From my experience, what I have seen is right around that 6%, 5.5%, 6.5% cash on cash return. Mm-hmm. And then on the back end of it, the real estate is keeping up with inflation. We have to be very careful about inflation right now. Mm-hmm. And then think you're actually going to get the residency. That's the important piece of the puzzle, the residency. So sometimes what my clients will do is we will buy them real estate down here. We'll do it it's called a Sociedad Anónimo. It's a anonymous corporation. You can think of it, the version of it in Canada and the States would basically be a corporation. We can sign paperwork on their behalf. So a lot of my clients will buy properties sight unseen, would do videos for them or take photos and things like that. It's all done with a lawyer. Then when they move down to Panama, they're actually just using that rental income and then they're going and renting in a different neighborhood, somewhere else they want. So we try to get in as the minimum amount. So that 200, 230 amount, if under the friendly nations, the one I talked about at first, or just over 300,000 for the qualified investor visa. And then they don't have to worry because the investment side is really a head decision. Does it make sense on the spreadsheet mathematically? But where you're going to actually spend time, which neighborhood? Do you want to be close to the water? Do you want to be more inland? Do you want to be in the mountains? Do you want to be close to the restaurants? Do you want to be in a suburb? That's more of a heart decision, right? You want to understand and get a good feel for it. So a lot of people will buy the investment property, get the residency, then come down here and rent a little bit here, rent a little bit there. Mm-hmm. And then when they find something that they really like, then they can think about settling down in that place. And it takes a lot of pressure off for this.
Beautiful. No, very exciting. I know plantations, before we wrap up, I wanted to see if we could talk a little bit about that. I know I didn't really do too much research on Panama, but, tell me what are the top three, maybe, good money makers. And is coffee also there any big or no? No.
So I don't work too much in coffee. One of the more popular products I could say down here are the hardwoods. So there's a lot of work by the government down in Central America for reforestation. So they like things like teak and these types of hardwood that they'll allow people to get residencies on the back of purchasing land and then committing to replanting it in a hardwood. So a lot of the hardwoods like teak are sold to India or to China. They're used for very high-end boat making or furniture or things like this. The other big programs that I work a lot with are in Uruguay. I had an opportunity to go to Uruguay twice last year. I've got another visit down there this year with clients. And it's a small country in South America. The population is only 3.5 million people.
Oh, wow.
However, they produce enough food for over 40 million people. So the big products are cattle. They have some of the greatest beef in the world. Then they do row crops. So this is like wheat, barley, sorghum, these types of things. And then they have timber plantations. Now, the timber is a little bit different there. They do mostly pulp for paper. So it's about 80% eucalyptus and about 20% pine. And the grow cycle is about 7 to 8 years on this. So what we're seeing with these, traditionally, the IRR is between 8 and 11% cash on cash. So it's a very good investment. And I like a lot of the timber things because, you can put it in a company, in a trust, in a foundation. You want to have it for a long period of time in your family. If something happens to you, it goes on to your kids, to your grandkids, things like that. You can get title deed for it. You own it outright in your own name. And there's great tax advantages in these countries for investing in a lot of the agriculture and timber types of things. So it's kind of that permanent position, in a family foundation or family trust or something like that. It allows you to get money out of the US and Canada. And, it's real tangible asset. You can see it, you can hold it, you can feel it. If you guys go to my website at expatmoney.com, you'll see videos that we've done about these types of things, blog articles and podcasts and webinars and lots of different things where we talk about these types of alternative assets like agriculture and timber.
I love it. Love it. No, you've contributed so much. I really want to thank you for hanging out with me, Mikkel, and you've brought so much new flavor to the whole thing about moving to different countries. And many people, I think in USA, definitely in other parts of the world too, they're always, as our population is retiring more and more, 10,000 baby boomers are turning 65 every night in USA alone. So there is a lot more probably interest on the part of, and how can people reach you? That'll be great, so that if they would like to talk to you or something. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, very happy to help your people, Vinney. So wherever you guys are listening to us today, Stitcher Radio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever the program is, you can search Expat Money Show. That's my program. We've been podcasting for about 7 years now. Tons and tons of amazing content on there. And then check out my website, expatmoney.com. We put out daily blog articles on there. I have a newsletter with about 40,000 people on it. So lots of people really enjoy the newsletter. And then we do monthly webinars and a ton of free content. Now, if people need more help, if they want a helping hand, I do work as a consultant. So I work one-on-one with people. We do 12-month program for them and walk them through everything. And I open up my network of lawyers and developers and accountants. We deal with all the tax and the immigration and the financial issues of all this. But if you're not at that stage, then just come and check us out at expatmoney.com. There's just a ton of resources there for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mikkel, and everybody listening and watching us in the YouTube and other channels. Please go ahead and share this episode. If you think of somebody can really be thinking about, taking that residency outside USA, and a lot of people are. So this will be tremendous opportunity for them to really listen in and see what is entailed. Thank you, Mikkel, for such a great, content and dropping so many nuggets. And, I would love everybody, please give us that 5-star reviews. Remember, on the algorithms, if you give written reviews and 5-star, then we'll be able to bring bigger and better, our guests and all that. And thanks for watching today and listening, if you are listening there, and see you again on the next show. Thank you so much. Thank you again, for joining Vinney Chopra this week on this podcast. And please subscribe, share, give comments, and give 5-star rating if you can on iTunes, because that really helps a lot for us to bring great guests. And also iTunes raises our rankings up. And I hope you have been very happy with Vinney Chopra and team, who are able to bring great information. If you would like to invest with us, please go ahead and go to vinneychopra.com/invest. Thanks again. God bless you.